Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to everyone tuning into the highlight reel. We have a very special guest today. I hope that you notice how I'm speaking right now, because I never ever speak like that at all. I never ever talk like that. We are here with my friend Jamilah Muhammad, and I'm gonna let you go ahead and introduce yourself to the people real quick.
Okay, so I think you're talking like that because I'm Jamilah. I'm a reporter and a journalist, so I definitely have that news voice that he put on just now.
Yes.
But I don't know if we're going to hear it today.
I had to get it off.
I feel like you're going to still ask
I had to get it off.
I've been a journalist for 5 years. It's been great. I've seen a lot. I started in 2019. So right before the pandemic happened and the world kind of went crazy. So it's been no lack of content, and I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, we are definitely going to get into plenty of different things. I had to start off like that just because I figured you were not gonna do it or want to, because we're not at work right now.
Yeah.
But I've always thought it was interesting, and I always thought it was funny how reporters and journalists speak like that. And we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about that. So, all right. You said you're a journalist, right?
I am.
Okay. Ironically, I went to Kent State, and I started at Kent State as without a major first, but then I started to study journalism.
Okay.
I liked it. Well, I didn't finish with it.
Fair.
So what I learned that I liked from it was talking to people, interviewing people.
Yes.
I learned whenever you ask somebody, hey, I would like to interview you.
Yeah.
They feel very important.
Yeah.
And they feel, like they're more likely to want to do it.
Yeah.
I hated the writing though.
Yeah.
So how you feel about that?
And just for that exact reason is why I didn't major in journalism. I actually majored in communications.
I'm gonna move this real quick.
Yeah, please. Yeah. I majored in communications because of that exact reason. Our journalism program, I went to The Ohio State University. Gotta add the because we have respect in this household. No, but I went to OSU, and the journalism program is great, but it's a little bit more focused towards print, like newspaper and stuff like that. And I had no interest in that. I knew I liked to talk to people. I knew I wanted to be on TV.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of would finesse my way into media classes. I ended up working for the Lantern. And that was great, but I knew I just kind of like the people aspect. Writing, I also don't mind. I had to get used to it, though. My writing skills have transformed over the past 5 years, but I loved shooting, shooting people in different angles, getting different angles. I also really liked editing. Like I do enjoy seeing the whole thing go from one raw clip to something that's really beautiful, and you're making something that you've been on for maybe like an hour shoot into 2 minutes, which is, it can be kind of tough.
Dang, that's a lot.
I know, but people talk a lot, and when you hear like something good, you're like, oh, okay, like that's a good soundbite, so I'll use that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you started out. So you kind of started out in print, and then you said you finessed your way into...
Not even print. I never even touched print. I never touched print.
Never had a class, nothing?
No. They had like a practicum class that all of my peers were like taking, and I was like, that sucks for y'all. But that is not my life.
What?
I know.
Because, when I was in it, like I said, the talking to people, I loved it.
Yeah.
But I think for me to write my stories, because I had to do some print... what I would do is I would transcribe the entire conversation. Ahs, everything, because people talk so fast.
They do.
That right after you say a I, you might go right into a word. So I would type everything. I remember I had to do a assignment where I had to interview, I think, 15 people.
Yeah.
And I talked to maybe each person maybe 5 minutes or less. But I remember that assignment took me forever.
Yeah.
Because I had to transcribe it.
Yeah.
Get what I needed, put it in a story. And that's when I said, if this was my livelihood, I wouldn't survive because I don't want to do it. No, I remember that. I was in a class because some of my friends, they let me stay at their dorm for a night, and I was doing it. I was up to like 3 a.m. doing it, and I said, dang, I couldn't do this if I had to.
If you stuck with it, you probably would, because you would have got faster and better. You would have found little tricks and stuff. Because it's funny, my friend had just sent me... It's very embarrassing. He sent me this newscast I had to do for class. And mind you, like I'm in their college apartment and I had them move their TV to make it look like I had a background behind me. No green screen, just a TV that's like 40 inches with a cityscape behind it. And then I'm on their kitchen table and I'm pretending to be on the news. And it looks so bad. I have like a blonde sewing in. So like in my hair, it's absolutely horrendous. But, and it's like, wow, look how far I've come.
So was this for your media reel?
Yeah, like it was, you know, like even though I wasn't taking journalism, like I wasn't majoring in journalism, I would still have journalism classes or like media studies classes. So I still got a taste of, you know, what the business was like in a more hands-on way. And I more so studied the way media works and how media is consumed, the way media is going. Like I was more so focused on media versus the actual journalism part of things, which I think is better.
How? Why?
I think it's better because, you know, let's just be honest. Print's dying. No one wants to read anymore. I like to read, but no one likes to read. They don't. They really, really don't. I mean, our country is a good example of that. Our country is a great example of people not liking to read. So people want to consume everything in 2 minutes, two to 5 minutes. And so that's media. Like, how do I say what I need to say in a way that people are consuming it right now? And so that's what I'm studying. And how do I look at how different groups, different demographics interpret media or consume media? And so that's how I was learning. And then when I got into the business, especially with my job now, it makes it way easier to, you know, build your stories or talk to people because you know how they're going to consume it.
Okay.
I got stuck.
No, it's just like it's so interesting to me when I talk to someone that is in the field of journalism. Yeah. And then I started in journalism. I did it for a semester and I said I'm going to communication. Yeah. And you said that's what you graduated with? Communication.
Currently getting my master's. Shout out
to you. So then so you started out in journalism. You graduated.
No, started out in communications. Never did journalism.
Oh, whoa.
Never did journalism.
And you graduated with communication.
Yep.
And then you still end up working your way into journalism and reporting.
Yeah.
See, I've known that you can do that, but I got into communication because I wanted to be into, you know, radio. Because at my school, they had a school of journalism and mass communication. Yeah. But never a mass communication major.
That's sad.
And what I've heard from the schools that I know that offer mass communication, it seems like it's kind of more broad. You learn about pop culture, movie culture, all those different things. One of my favorite classes in college was called Media, Power, and Culture. And it's simple. It's like, you know, what media is, how it has power, and how it influences culture. That's basically how I would always describe it. Yeah. We talked about music, TV, film, all those different things. So I always loved that. But what I wanted to ask is, okay, so you know, you discuss the news, you talk to people and stuff like that. I do the same thing.
Yeah, you do.
So what's the difference in what we do?
Our timelines and our, you know, so I have to work on a deadline. I'm sure you give yourself like, you know, your own personal deadlines, but I work the morning shift. So I'm up at 3 a.m. I go in at 4 a.m. and my stuff needs to be on and I'm on TV by 6 a.m. So, but deadline's a little bit quicker. I don't have as much autonomy on what I get to talk about. You know, that's the biggest difference. That's the biggest difference.
Sign me off.
I know. And, you know, you're writing. So my job, we are statewide. Right. So my viewers are not only in Columbus or in Cincinnati or in Cleveland or, you know, Dayton, wherever it is. They're all over they're all over the state. And so
shout out to the best city though. Cincinnati.
Columbus.
Cincinnati.
614. Shout out to the capital of the state.
Best. You see the hat?
Buckeye Nation.
You see the hat?
Buckeye Nation. I'm just saying.
Come on, be honest, man.
Let's be honest about it. Let's just really be honest.
Best city in the state?
Columbus.
Who told you that?
Me and
You
God.
believe that?
You can't, and you have nothing to say. You can't say nothing when I say God. God told me personally in my dreams. He said,
"Shout out to God."
Shout out God,
because he told me Cincinnati.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
No, but if you ask anyone, like I will ride hard for Columbus because Columbus is known as the fastest growing city in the country. It's one of them. Mm-hmm. What is Cincinnati known for?
What?
The Bengals.
The Bengals, the Cincinnati Bearcats, the oldest
not the Bearcats,
oldest and
not
first
the Bearcats
baseball team in the country.
You guys have to change your name.
Come on now, Cincinnati Reds, and then we got a soccer team now that's doing
not
great.
Good. That's not as good as the Crew.
When was the last time you watched soccer? Did you watch soccer last season?
Not at all.
Oh, okay, thank you.
But the Crew goes crazy.
Anyway,
first of all. And you know what? Shout out Drake. I have to shout out Drake because did Drake shout out Cincinnati? No.
Yes, he did.
He shout out the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Like I'm at a Cincinnati.
No, and that's not the same vibe.
Bruh.
That's new
Be
Drake.
Honest.
That's new Drake, and that's more so him mentioning Sexy
He
Red.
said no. Matter of fact,
not necessarily Cincinnati.
What was it? Scorpion.
And
he
that's
was like,
his worst album.
I was driving down to something Cincinnati. That's twice.
That's
when last time he said Columbus?
The Buckeyes.
Bruh, okay,
and that's what matters.
One time.
And that's what matters.
Okay, but he was just on the last album saying, I'm with...
Did he go to Cincinnati, though, for his tour? Silence.
Bro.
Silence. Okay. He went to Cleveland,
came to Columbus because he canceled.
Cincinnati,
he came to Columbus.
We gave us 2 dates with J. Cole.
Because he canceled first.
And it's a better show because we had Drake and J. Cole. Y'all got no one.
You getting me hot, bro.
Yeah.
That's shout out to my city.
Man, shout out to my city.
Anyway.
Shout out to my...
So, to bring it back to what you were saying, you said that what you... Okay, so basically the station that you work at is statewide?
Yeah.
Okay, so it services like all of the stations, kind of?
All of the... Yeah, so if you have our services...
Yeah.
And you're anywhere in Ohio, you can watch us or Channel 1. So as soon as you turn on the TV, you will see me in the morning. Right. And then after that, you will not.
Right.
The next morning.
What's that like though? Having you said 3 in the morning? Like you have to be there at 4 in the morning?
You have to be there at 4 in the morning.
So what time you go to sleep usually? What time do you try to go to sleep? How about that?
I split sleep. I know. My boyfriend hates it. He hates it so much. I split sleep. So I go to bed maybe like 10:30, 11, wake up at 3. I get home around like 11:30, 12, sometimes 1, depending on the day.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and then I take a nap until like maybe 4 or 5. And then I get to enjoy my day.
So you don't sleep 8 hours?
No, usually. I don't sleep consistently 8 hours, no.
And you don't feel like that hinders your work or anything?
No, because what matters to me is a work-life balance. So if I have to go to bed at 8 o'clock, I gotta get to hang out with my friends.
But you said a work-life balance.
That makes me sad.
You said a work-life balance, but you sleep like 4 hours.
Yeah, but I run off of energy and God and the fact that I might lose my job if I don't wake up. So
okay, that's real. See, as someone that has a lot of energy, I can actually understand some of that because there's times where I'll stay up late to finish something and then I still wake up early to do something else.
Yeah.
And I feel like as long as I have the energy, yes, there are going to be times I still need to get the rest that, yes, you need to do it too. But I do think that if you have that down and it works for you, then do that.
Yeah. I don't think it's something that I could sustain for a long period of time. Like if I had to do that for 5 years, not going to sign up to do that. But it works for right now. And again, like I like the idea that I can, by the time I wake up from my nap, I can still hang out with my friends. I can go grab dinner. That's what mattered to me the most. What's actually really surprising is that I don't drink coffee.
I don't either.
See, because real people know coffee's not the wave. And I just feel like it's nasty.
A lot of people are not going to agree with that at all.
I know, and that's sad for them because they be having to run to the bathroom in the middle of work.
Or they be crashing, and people be thinking I'm just weird. I'm like, no, I'm just wired like that.
Yeah.
I just be up, man.
Maybe we're just anxious.
No.
Well,
I would just say we're very. I would just say I'm very excited, and I get my energy being around people.
Same.
So,
yeah, same.
like, let's say I'm at work and I'm not around anyone, that tends to sap me in my energy. As soon as I have a conversation, I could be super tired.
Yeah.
As soon as I start talking to you, I'm awake.
Yeah.
Like, that wakes me up and it gives me energy.
Same.
So, I would think that it's probably the same for you because you're with the team, you're talking to people, you're talking to people about something that's going on. So I can see how you get energy from that.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about some of the things that you do on air, of course. So first off, like how I was talking at first, right? So from what I understand, that's called broadcast English. Or like network English.
I've never heard of that.
You never heard of that. So, because I think I was actually watching another content creator and he said, why do all reporters sound the same?
Yes.
And then I've realized some don't always sound like that.
Right.
But a lot of people make, kind of fun of people in the news.
I respect it.
But it's funny. And I respect it because there was a content creator that would actually talk how she would on air.
Oh, the Miss News lady.
Yeah, she was talking like that at home.
I love her.
And I think that is hilarious.
Me too.
Because a lot of people, if they're
going
to mimic someone on the news, they're going to speak as properly as they can.
Yeah.
So you say you've never heard of broadcast English?
No, but I know based off what you're saying, I know what it is. I just call it my news voice.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's what everyone calls it.
So, how's that? How do you feel about that when you do it?
It's very funny.
Yeah.
It's actually really funny because during 2020 when the world shut down, we were doing interviews from home.
Right.
And I was at home, and so at the time I was a reporter in Kentucky, but I would come home often because all my interviews are virtual.
Right.
But when it came to editing, I had to turn my news voice on.
Yeah.
So, again, I lived in Kentucky, so when I would come up here, I would have to be at, a friend's house or be at my family's house. So when I was at my friend's house, I'd be like, don't listen to me. I would have to go into a closet. Because I can't be seen. I just feel like...
It's like if you had to do...
It's like a superpower. I have to go in the closet and put on, a super cape and then go save the world and then come back. But, don't look at me change into my spandex. Don't do that. It's not cute. So my friends do it to me all the time. They will mimic my voice. It's interesting though because naturally I talk really fast. And so my news voice helps me just talk slower. And it's a little bit deeper. My voice is a little bit deeper, a little bit slower, and I'm over enunciating a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, that kind of takes me to my next point because I've learned of something called the effort code.
Oh, you're teaching me a lot today.
So because it's basically when news reporter people, journalists, reporters, you kind of pitch your voice up and down and you keep doing it like that because you're not supposed to sound like you're from anywhere. Right. And that makes certain things sound... Basically, when you speak like that, you're trying to get the viewer to pay more attention to you because what it's supposed to bring to their attention that what you have to say is important. Right. So it's... Because even listening to you, even though you're not in your news voice, I feel like naturally you speak maybe kind of more proper than most, maybe a little bit. No? No, I would say so. I would say so. And, it's actually really funny because they say Ohio specifically, but really the Midwest is a great place to grow up if you want to do news because we don't have any accent. And so people will come here or watch us to learn how to speak like us because we don't really sound like we're from anywhere. I know. But so do you believe we don't have an accent? I think that we don't have an accent, probably not. You're from Cincinnati, so you guys do have a little bit more of a twang. No, I mean it's okay. Yeah. More than those more up north. Because you guys are closer down south. When I lived in Kentucky, they knew immediately I wasn't from there. Yeah. Because I didn't have the twang. I didn't have anything. I sounded different to them. Right. But I didn't sound like I had an accent. No. But what you're talking about is also inflections, is kind of the vibe is what I'm getting from what you're talking about. And it's interesting because when you first start in the business,
you're so focused on getting your news voice that you really just kind of sound really monotone and you don't really sound as personable. So now that I, had some more time in the game, my news voice doesn't sound that different than how I sound now, but there'll be words like when I'm writing my script, like I'm like, okay, make sure to emphasize this.
Yeah.
And it's weird because you have to tell yourself.
You have to really enunciate
and tell yourself like, this is how you should talk. When it's like, I talk like that.
Does that ever kind of tire you out?
Yeah, because
you have to really enunciate every syllable and every word that you say.
It does. And it's also funny because when I first started, my mouth would do the craziest things. It would always move to the side. Like when I'm trying to over enunciate, I think it's because my two front teeth are a little bit big, to be honest. And so it would always just look weird. And I would watch it and I'm like, that is so ugly. Like, I don't like that, but I don't know what to do. So I just think I had to just keep doing it more. And now it looks better. Like I watch myself and I'm like, okay, that looks normal. But it's just about kind of finding that balance of, like you said, enunciating, speaking slow so the viewer can hear you, but then also just sounding conversational. You want the viewer to feel, especially
that's
on the
a lot.
team.
It's a lot. That's a lot that you got to work through to enunciate. Kind of have the pitching up and down, still sound conversational, still not sound like you're from anywhere, and then get the information across. That's a lot.
And on top of that, code switch, because I don't talk like that in my normal life.
Ooh, code switching.
Okay,
so would you? I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank
actually,
you.
because I think when a lot of people, I'll say specifically with many Black people that are on air, when I look at them and I'm listening to them, I'm thinking, if I saw you on the street and I talked to you, you wouldn't talk like that. No. But then I also think that other people that are, not Black or whatever, when they're not on air, they probably wouldn't either. It's just...
They do. They be talking like that.
But, I mean, okay, maybe, but I think most people, because of the effort that it takes for you to speak like that, I think most people wouldn't.
They might not sound like that, but they talk like that. Because, code switching in reality is us sounding more palatable to certain audiences. So we are changing ourselves to sound inherently like them. And so they're not really changing much in the way in which they're talking. They might sound different if you saw them on the street, but the language they use or the way that they sound or the way they structure their sentences.
Okay.
Like we're emulating that. And so, sometimes what was so interesting for me, I remember having a meeting with my higher ups, and they're like, your writing is good and you're really growing, but I just want it to sound a lot more conversational. And when you write, and I really struggled with that because I'm like, I do not talk like that. I don't talk like this. I'm already struggling to even write like this, and then to talk conversationally like this isn't gonna work because I don't have conversations that look like this. My conversations be having a lot of B's. Yeah. That's not proper English. Exactly. I can't say that on air, but that's just how we talk. So
does that basically, when you're about to be on air, do you ever feel kind of uncomfortable because you feel like you have to become something else? Because you did say that you kind of have to be like a superhero. Yeah. But that's also not who you are naturally. Right. So does that ever feel weird for you?
There's two sides to me. I have two personalities. I have two Instagrams. There's News Bay and then there's J Muhammad TV. So it's something that you just kind of got to get used to. I also grew up in a more strict household. So there was one way I would be with my parents and my family, and then there'd be another way I'd be with my friends. So that's kind of, that kind of gets you prepared for the real world. So yeah.
Also, I want to talk about how you feel about when you hear yourself back. Do you not like when you hear yourself back?
So
on a recording?
I don't dislike it. I just think it's weird because I think it's more, I'll say this. Now that I'm on TV a lot more, so I'm on TV every day versus before I switched to the morning team.
Okay, a little flex. Okay.
Okay, no, not a flex. But before I switched to the morning team, I was on TV maybe more sporadically. So I think it's more so weird seeing myself than hearing myself. And it's more so because the person I see on TV is not the real me.
Oh.
So it's like people at home have this perception of me. Like if they're watching this at home, they're probably like, wow, she just seems, I don't know what they think. But it's like at my off time, that is not, like if you saw me on the street, you would not be like, oh.
Also, you'll probably enjoy watching and hearing this back then.
Yeah, like this would be cool because this is like more so me.
Yeah. Okay.
But hearing myself isn't bad. And we were kind of talking before a little bit off camera, and I was saying that my mom always said that I had a very raspy voice ever since I was a little kid, and I really don't hear that. But people think that my voice is very unique. I also don't hear that. I just think my voice just be sounding like a voice. I do. I really do. But when people think that my voice sounds... You either said
a lot of bars right there or a lot of nothing right there.
And you know what? Shout out to my best friend because he always, every time I finish talking, he'll be like, you said a bunch of nothing. And I'll be like, shut up.
No, because, I mean, I know... When you were saying that you don't like hearing yourself back, it's always funny when I hear people say they don't like to hear themselves on recording or see themselves. Because... I'm thinking, dang, does that make me cocky that I love my voice?
No,
I love how I sound.
Shout out Sexy Red. Yeah. Look, you like my voice? Turn you on. No. I think that my voice is. I think it's fine. You know, like.
Yeah. I mean, it's your voice.
It's not for me to just really like. I mean, I hear it, but it's more for people to enjoy. As long as they enjoy it.
Right.
You know, no one's ever told me, shut up.
Right, because
your voice is annoying. Shut up. Like, I know some people like that. Like, oh my God.
No, I just think it's because it's very interesting when people are, like you say, you're on the news and then you are hearing yourself as well. And to say, that feels weird. But every time I hear myself, I see myself, I say, dang, whoo, that sounds
that guy.
Good.
That's that guy.
I say, that sounds great.
Long as for me is like, to me, and I think he's great, but like, I think Patrick Mahomes has the worst voice.
Oh, he has an interesting voice.
He does.
I can agree.
It's like, for me, it's like if I don't sound like that, I'm good. I'm good. No, for real. And he's a great player, but he did choose the right field. Like if he was in news, would I watch that? Would you watch that?
Probably not.
Probably not. You would be like, turn this shit off.
Nah. It's just because considering that even when I was in the journalism program, I was thinking, I don't want to be on the news. Like, I don't want to be on the news, but I did end up getting into TV at my school, and I said, this was cool. Yeah. And that was not a reality show, but it was more so like a variety show.
Okay.
Basically, we would, talk about things that were going on in pop culture, things that were going on our campus and things like that. Yeah. And I loved it. And even some of my co-hosts would say, they didn't like how they sounded or how they looked or whatever. I said, bro, anytime I'm on camera and I hear myself, I love it.
I think I'm a sucker for a good voice, though. Like, my poppy, he had a beautiful voice. Mm-hmm. And, like... I like to hear when men's voices are nice. I think that's real nice. I don't know if girls' voices are like a little bit more high pitched. Sometimes, like, I know my voice, it can be like that is like, oh wow, that's a lot.
I think you have to just learn your voice, because I think when people are sleepy, they probably like your voice a little.
That's when you get that smooth jazz.
Yeah, that's when you're
tune into 99.7 smooth jazz and R&B.
Yeah, like I think that's when a lot of people probably like their voice a little more, or maybe when you first wake up, because your voice is a little. I don't know. Some people's voice is a little different when they first wake up.
Mine does. Mine sounds like extremely raspy when I first wake up. Anytime someone calls me like, you just wake up, I'm like, yeah. It sounds a lot more like deep, raspy. My friend Cadess, she loves my voice. She loves my voice. And it's so funny because one time she lives in DC, and one time she was sick, and she had sent me a voice memo like, I'm sick right now, but I love my voice. It sounds like yours because it sound all raspy. And I was like, I don't know if that's a compliment.
I don't know how I would take that. It's like, you're sick and you sound like me and you like that? Are you saying I sound sick all the time?
She was like, she said it just hurt because her throat, I guess, was hurting, and she said it was just sounded raspy.
Yo.
She didn't sound nasally. Well, that's really what I would want to stay away from. Like, Fran Drescher, like, the nanny.
Yes.
I wouldn't want to sound like that.
I mean, she made...
But she
made a career off that.
She made bands. Yeah.
I don't know. But I want to talk about as well some of the experiences that you've had since you've been, working in journalism and working as a reporter. Because I know I did a little research on you.
Uh-oh.
So, and this is kind of more serious, but I saw something where I think this happened in Columbus in 2020. There was a young girl that basically, lost her life. And there was a lot of, I think, protesting around and things like that. But I also know that you have, covered some of the protests during the pandemic. Yeah. Covering the pandemic itself. Yeah. Covering the election.
Wow.
So, I mean, in your short but long 5 years, you've covered a lot. Yeah. So I was going to say, what have been some of the hardest experiences working in this field for you?
Great question. So definitely the pandemic. That 2020 was wild. And it was because I was only a journalist maybe 6 months before everything kind of hit the fan. And so one of the things that really stood out to me was the protest. And so at the time, my first station, I was in Kentucky. And if you guys don't know, or if you don't know, which I think you would because you're cultured, Louisville is where Breonna Taylor was shot and killed. And so I remember going up to Louisville and having to help with that coverage. And that was extremely sad. But it was interesting because you would see these protests during the day. And again, it's during the pandemic. And so everyone doesn't really have jobs. They're not working. I consider 2020 like the perfect storm for that because everyone's either laid off or they can't work. And so they're upset because of that. Then you have social justice issues on top of that. And then you also have the election on top of that. And so people were just upset. People just were upset. And so I remember going up to cover the protests, and I'm meeting these groups and these organizations and these people that are just rallying together to support this cause or to bring awareness to this tragedy. You have people bringing free lunches, free meals every day to support the protesters that are out there. And so it was this great community vibe during the day. And then at night, it got crazy. You would hear sirens because they're telling the city that needs to lock down because cities were on lockdown at the time. And so people are like, so it was like there would be these like tornado type, like almost purge type sirens that would go off starting at 9:00. And shutting the city down, you would see cops come with like all of their warlike gear, throwing smoke bombs people are going to jail every day. It was a totally different vibe at night. It was literally night and day. And so that was wild. I remember there was one protest in particular during the day that the community was minding their business, like, they're doing what they need to do. They're protesting. They got their signs. And then there's a counter protest because, again, this is an election year. And again, this is Kentucky. So you have these group of people that came with their AK-47s, their shotguns, their everything with guns, saying they needed to protect the city. Like Batman.
Interesting, yeah.
So
interesting choice of words.
Yeah. So that was that. It was quite crazy. It was quite crazy. And then you mentioned, I think you're kind of alluding to Ma'Khia Bryant, and that was when I moved just to Columbus. And that was a super sad day. And it was a sad day because the court case for George Floyd had just finished up. And they had just indicted the cops and saying that they were found guilty, they were going to go to jail, And so everybody's lit. We're like, finally a win. Finally, like, these cops are going to get justice for what they've done. 30 minutes later, I get a call from my producer, like, we need you to go out to the east side of Columbus. A cop shot a teen girl. I cried. I was like, there's no way. There's no way that happened that fast. And so I think that was the moment for me that I realized that the idea of like a news cycle is very real. Like it really is a cycle. It's cyclical. Like you're gonna cover something and it's gonna be hot and it's gonna maybe get a solution and then it's gonna be something else. And so I think that was when it was like, okay, this is a whole different beast emotionally and like mentally that I didn't really think about or prepare for.
See, I'm glad that you went there because I was one of the questions that I was thinking about asking you before we started was, are you an empath? Because in situations like that, like in those,
that's a good one.
In those two situations, those are heavy. They're like very, very heavy.
Yeah.
And to be an empath and to be someone that feels those emotions, and you have to work.
Yeah.
Like, I feel what just happened. Like let's say you're saying, I feel what just happened as a Black woman, but I have to work. And I still have to do this to get this, to get this information out. But that can make it hard for you to do your job.
It very much can. And I think it really comes down to when I have to talk to the other side and I have to make sure I'm an unbiased journalist and I have to see both sides and that's where it can get tricky. But taking on people's trauma, I don't necessarily take that home. I try not to. I started watching crime shows as a little kid, so, and not that it's related, but like there's a certain level of, I think, violence in the media that we kind of consume on a daily basis that it makes it easier for us to disassociate what's going on.
So you desensitized?
A little desensitized, yeah.
Okay.
But I will not forget, there was this mom that has interviewed. It was a couple years ago. And it was when, gun violence is still a huge issue, but it was really running rampant in Columbus. And I had to sit and talk with her, and she had lost both of her kids to gun violence. And it was just sad. One, her son, she was talking about how, like they would walk to Rush's every day and, get a donut and, just all the memories that they had together and how like they will never get to make any more. That was really sad to hear. And then I think she said 6 months later, she lost her daughter and she saw it. Like she was there to witness it. And so I think it's hearing stories like that I think it's all about perspective too, I look at it like this is extremely sad, but I feel empowered because I'm telling that person's story. So I can walk away saying like, okay, I'm hoping that even if it's just one person that sees this story, they decide to, okay, maybe I don't need to be out here in the street causing chaos. Or maybe I do need to talk to my kids and ask really like, what are you guys doing? Like when I'm not home or I'm not seeing you or whatever, really what's going on? Like that's what I'm hoping for. So I'm more so hopeful in those situations versus trying to take on their trauma.
You say you feel hopeful. Wow, that's a perspective.
I know.
That's definitely a way to switch it because
Hold on, give me 1 second. Sorry.
You're good. Because
my friend called me twice.
Oh, you're good.
And I'm gonna just respond to that.
Okay. So basically being able to switch the perspective like that, I think is good for you because I was from hearing you just talk about all the things that were happening and you having to be in it, like be in that. I went to a protest in 2020 and it was a long day emotionally because it was just, I was feeling so much, and to have to be in that and working it, hearing these people's stories, whether they're sad and different things like that, but to flip it and be kind of telling the story for them is very, very important. No, it's very important.
It is.
But I guess I want to ask, does that ever feel like it's too much? Because if you feel like you're this person's voice, that's a lot of responsibility that comes with that.
Yeah. And I think that's just where confidence in yourself and your craft have to come. Again, this person is trusting you with their story. And so it's really about taking the time to make sure you're writing it in an impactful way, making sure you're choosing sound bites that really relay their feelings, their thoughts, their emotions, their hopes. And so And then it's also trying to take, like I was saying earlier, you know, a 30-minute interview or a 15-minute interview and condensing it down to 2 minutes. So, or 2 or 3 minutes. And so that in itself can be hard because it's like, wow, you know, I want to make sure that whatever I choose, that the viewer at home is going to really take away something from this. But I think I do. Like, I've never... I always try to make sure that I walk away from any story like that really proud of it and really feeling like, you know, I did my best. And I've had people reach out to me and say, like, you know, thank you for telling my story. You did a great job. And that makes me feel good because you don't have to touch me with your story. You don't have to tell me your business. You know, you don't have to reopen wounds or traumas for me, you know, or for other people. But, you know, the goal of them doing that is that somebody will learn or take away or, you know, be impacted by that. And so that's my job. And that's what I try to do.
As a podcaster, I can relate to a lot of that. I won't disrespect journalism.
I'm weak.
And say I'm a journalist, but a lot of the same things you just said are things that I feel like I do.
Yeah.
I want to make sure, like, for example, for this episode, when clips come out and stuff like that, I try to make sure that there are certain things that, you know, really portray who you are as a person because, again, people usually see you on the news.
Yeah.
They don't always see you like this unless they know you and see you in person.
Yeah.
So I try to, you know, help people tell their story as well. And I'm not necessarily your voice. I let you speak.
Yeah.
But even still, I have some power over how it's portrayed.
Yeah.
So I think I can relate in those ways, which is always interesting because a lot of people that are podcasting are, you know, kind of doing journalism a little bit because, you know, when I think of athletes and whatnot, athletes played whatever sport that they played, and then when they talk to other athletes, you could say that's journalism, and they might get answers that actual journalists won't get because they were never in their shoes.
Yeah.
But still, that athlete is not a journalist.
Right.
So there's still different aspects to it that are both important for the overall picture.
And that, I think, is the most important part of being a journalist is that you're a person. And you want to make that person that you're talking to, you want to remind them that I'm a person. Yeah. You know, like, before I go into any interview, I just try to sit and talk with them. No cameras, no mics if I have the time. And just let them know, hey, I'm here just like you. You know, I'm a person just like you. I care about your story. I want to make sure I take good care of your story. And I also have my own, you know, history and stories to tell. And so we can connect on that level and just know that I know the power that I have when telling your story and that I'm going to use that power for good.
Wow.
Superhero.
I can see that would be very comforting. Because I know for me, if someone was to ask me they wanted, you know, a soundbite or part of my story, I'd be excited to talk. Yeah. That's just me, though. But
and it depends on the story that you have to tell, too.
Right. Because if it's something where something tragic happens in my family, then that's a different thing. And for you to come in and speak like that will make me say, okay, you're not here just to, like, yes, you have a job to do, but you're not here to just, you know, get clickbait and different things like that. You're here to make sure it's portrayed correctly. Right.
And I've had to talk to some of my news producers about that exact thing because there is a certain level of empathy that I think can be lacking in the newsroom because it is, okay, sometimes it's just about getting the story out,
and
getting the story
cycle,
first.
Like you said.
And it's a cycle. And so I've had to tell news producers, for example, like last week, that tornado happened in Dayton or in Springfield. And, you know, I'm not going to shove a camera and a mic in someone's face who just lost their home, lost their livelihood, and ask you how you feel about it. Because if you cuss me out, I'm gonna understand. Like, I would cuss myself out. Yeah. Girl, get out my face. You know, like, so.
It's so funny. So that this is going to sound slightly unrelated and slightly goofy.
It's okay.
But you ever seen UFC? UFC
the
fighters?
fighting?
Yeah, MMA fighters and whatnot. Okay. So I saw a meme recently that said, imagine getting knocked out and then the first thing that happens is there's a mic in your face.
That's what I'm saying. Like
bruh, how did you lose? How'd you get knocked out? And you say, what you want me to say, bruh? Like,
come on.
And
that's what I'm like, let's just have common sense. Let's just have common, and no, really, like, really.
It was just so.
It's so.
Like, it's that because that what you were saying made me think of that, but I do think it relates because it's almost like if something crazy happens in someone's life and then the first thing you say is, how do you feel right now? Can I decompress for a second? Like,
can I process what just happened?
Yeah,
you know, and
that way
that's
I can actually speak to you.
That's what I mean, you know, about
the empathy and the feelings.
Empathy, feeling, and even, you know, we as Black people, I think, are also just more nurturing and caring and more, you know, we're more familial. I think is the right word. Like we're more I think we really care about community, and so at least I do. I shouldn't speak for all Black people. Let me
for you.
Let me not say that for my whole race.
Yes.
but for me and the way I was raised.
Yes.
Those are things that were really important. You know, family, community, and so I'm always going to put that first, no matter what job I have. And so I think it's having to be firm in that and be grounded in your roots and your principles. Even when you're talking to, you know, you're having to confront or maybe push back on something that your boss or producer might want.
Respect. I can respect that. I can respect that.
Yeah.
What has been, I would say, like the most powerful, positive moment that made you say, I am so glad that I do this?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I really, again, like I'm from Columbus, so it was always my dream to come back to Columbus and be able to tell stories because it's my community.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, I love to see grassroots organizations come together or be very rooted in their community because their community has a problem and they say, you know, we're going to be the ones to solve it. So I've done a couple stories with We Are Linden.
Okay.
And that's a nonprofit organization in the Linden area, and they have come together to do some amazing things in the Linden community, which is a community that has really struggled with a couple different things because the neighborhood itself might struggle with food insecurity, might struggle with poverty, might struggle with you know, just a variety of different things that are out of their control. And so it's the community coming together and saying, hey, I noticed these things. How can we come together to solve this issue so you can get to work, so you can get your health care, so you can make sure your kids are doing well in school, so you can make sure that these kids have positive activities outside of school. So I think it's stories like that and people that I talk to that make me feel like, okay, this is why we do it. This is why I do it.
Good, because I think, you know, it's always important to be able to find the purpose in what you do. And I feel like in things like that, when you have those moments and say, oh, I'm so glad I do this, because for those, you know, very exhausting times and stuff like that, to have moments like that reinvigorates you and says, this is, both reasons are why you do it. But those are things that can encourage you and say, this is definitely going to push me forward to keep doing it. Yeah.
And, you know, I'm a Christian, so I believe in God, and I believe that is the reason I'm down here, is to change the narrative of really what news can be in general. I think a lot of people have a negative connotation of what news is because when they turn on the news, all they see is violence, politicians bickering about getting nothing done. I mean, just to be honest, you know, it's very disheartening. And so if even just for 3 minutes, you're able to catch a story where it's like, okay, you know, there's something positive going on in my community. There's something that I can get involved with. There's something that makes me want to wake up every day. Like that's a good feeling. That's the reason that you do it. I mean, I think even last week, like I said, with the tornado, the person I did end up interviewing was a guy that was just, you know, riding around his county, finding people that had lost their homes or that had trees falling down with his chainsaw, with gasoline, just saying, you know, hey, if you need help cutting down a tree, cutting down limbs to get to your stuff, I'm here to help for free of charge. And so it's like talking to people like that have that same spirit of even why I'm out there, that's the reason they're out there. That's a great feeling. That's a great feeling.
Good. I love to hear it. I love to hear it. Do you feel like you're kind of trailblazing the path in a way?
Oh,
or do you feel like you're kind of following in the path that was set before you?
Yeah, there's some great Black journalists, not only on the national level, but here even in Columbus, that I've looked at their work and I've followed suit and I've used as mentors. So I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily trailblazing, but I think that the reason that I do what I do, and even when being out in the community, what makes me maybe, I would say, memorable, and when I'm networking, like make people want to reach out, or don't mind if I call them 10 minutes before to say like, hey, I need you for an interview real quick. They're more willing to do it. Is again that human aspect. I think it's also my love for Columbus and for my community that they see and that they also might have, and so they can identify with that. And I think and the best thing about, or the most interesting thing about being a journalist, is that people come from all over. You really go where you get a job. So a lot of people that are journalists here in Columbus are not originally from Columbus. And so I think it's a different vibe when you're meeting someone that has that same passion for their city that you do.
I can definitely relate to that because I love my city. We won't have to get into it. We're not gonna have to get into it.
I'm just saying, because shout out to my city.
But no, I'm saying I understand that because like, let's say I was a reporter and I'm from the city of Cincinnati, and then I'm talking to somebody in the city as well. Matter of fact, I've experienced something like that. I think when I was in college, I went to Kent State. I remember there were different field trip options for the program I was in. So I chose the one that was in Cincinnati. And even though I'm from the city, when I was with my group, with other people that were not from there, we had talked to some people that were we were in Cincinnati, and we were talking to people from there. We talked to somebody about something. I was in tears. I was the only one in tears. I think I was the main one in tears, if anything, because I see him. I say, bro, I know exactly what it is that you're talking about. When you say this store, this thing down the street, I feel like I see myself in you. So to see that pain in you, I feel it. So now it makes me feel like there's a difference I need to be making. So I can understand.
And that's interesting too, because for me, I grew up on the east side of Columbus. Shout out the east side, man. The east side is the best side. I have to mention it because it is. No, it just is. But I'm gonna leave it at that. But no, I grew up on the east side of Columbus. Basically all my family was on the east side of Columbus. And then when I went to school, I went to OSU, and that was great too. But coming back as a reporter is different because you have to experience the entire city. You're in groups and you're learning things and you're meeting people and you're learning about struggles that I might not have ever known about. Even though I'm from here, I might not have ever realized it. And so I think it's really the best part about being a journalist in my city is me kind of re-falling in love with my city as I've grown.
I can feel that.
And and appreciating it for what it is, what it's trying to be, and how the community is trying to move it forward. So I think that's been the best part about being home and, telling stories in my city.
Yes, ma'am. So what would be some advice that you would have for those that are thinking about maybe going into this field? Because some people don't think it's as cool, or they just, they have their reservations about it. But what is some advice that you would have for those that are thinking about going into this field?
That's a great question. And it's a question that I really have had to think about even throughout my career. I go back to OSU pretty often and try to speak to, the students, because they're not kids, they're students that are trying to go into the field that I'm going into. And I think about, okay, well, what do I want to say? And I think the best advice I could give is don't be afraid to create your own lane. Just because it's news does not mean that you have to be out there chasing crime and chasing God knows what, chasing tornadoes. You do not have to do that. And sometimes that is the job. Don't get me wrong. You might have to do that, but don't be afraid to go to your producer or even in an interview, say, here's what I'm interested in. Here's what I want my beat to be. And here's how I can tell this story. And here's how we can frame this. Don't be afraid. Just because news is, again, I get it, it's fact-based, doesn't mean that you can't be creative. And so
and start a podcast.
And start,
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
And so, just find those lanes of creativity that you can tap into, and don't be afraid to, like I said, create your own lane and take control of the narrative of news.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So, as we wrap up, I was gonna ask you for a favor.
So, please, no.
In your news voice, could you just say thank you for tuning in to the highlight reel? You don't have to, but if you can,
I will do it. I'll do it because I had a good time here.
Cool.
But you can't look at me. You can't. Oh, you're gonna probably edit this part out because it's gonna take me a while. Okay, so I need to say what?
All I want you to say is thank you for tuning in to this episode of the highlight reel. I'm gonna actually wrap it up, but I want to hear you say that one time.
Okay. Thank you for tuning in to the highlight reel.
Thank you. Hey, let's go. All right, so thank you for tuning into this episode of the highlight reel. I hope that you've been able to take something away from this.
Yes.
Thank you again, Jamilah, for sharing today. I definitely think that I got to learn more about you, and the people have gotten to know more about you and the work that you do as well.
Yeah.
And thank you to the audience, the listener, the viewer of this episode. Please like, comment, subscribe, review, share it with a friend, and tell them to tell a friend.
Please.
But that's been your episode. Peace out.